All right, good evening all. I'd like to welcome everybody to the planning board meeting for March 1st, 2021, which of course we're doing again remotely due to COVID. So before we get kicked off, I've got to make a couple of statements. So a couple of housekeeping items as we continue again on the remote meeting. So the meeting is being recorded via WestfordCAT. We respectfully ask that anyone or everyone mute their computer microphones and phones when they're not in use to avoid unnecessary noise during the meeting. This is an open meeting, so for all the panelists that have access to the chat panel, I would like to remind you to not use that function to discuss any of the content of the meeting, but to ask a question or any technical issues with the video conferencing platform, and please direct them to the organizers. All votes will be done by roll call. Again, all attendees are muted upon arrival into the meeting. If an attendee wishes to contribute a question or comment, they may virtually raise their hand via the platform's control panel, and the chair or staff will recognize and unmute the participant where they can voice their concerns, similar to approaching the mic at a live meeting. Or individuals may submit questions and comments to the chair and staff by utilizing the questions function. These will be compiled and included into the hearing at the appropriate time. And due to limitations of the platform, attendees that are accessing the meeting via the telephone number at the bottom of the agenda will only be able to listen to the proceedings and will not be able to contribute. Please access the video conference via the link on the agenda, even if you don't have a webcam to participate. So here tonight, we have all 5 members of the planning board, Jeff and Matt from staff, as well as Henry Fontaine from the building department, and our town engineer, Paul Sterrett. So first thing we'll do is go to open forum. Is there anything in open forum from staff?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, anything from the board? Nope, I have nothing. We can go to the audience to see, does anybody in the audience have anything for open forum?
I do not see anything, Mr. Chair.
All right, quiet night on the open forum front. So that leads us to our first agenda item, which is our first public hearing item, which is PB 2024. It's a special permit and stormwater management application for 019, 33, and 35 Hartford Road. The applicant has requested postponement without discussion to the March 15th meeting. Is there a motion to continue the item to the March 15th meeting via webinar, likely, without discussion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of continuing, say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Dylan?
Aye.
I say aye. All right, second item, second public forum, open forum item is PB 2037, a special permit and stormwater management permit request for 478 Groton Road. The applicant has requested postponement without discussion to the March 15th meeting as well. Is there a motion to continue the item to the March 15th meeting without discussion, likely to be held via webinar?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, motion a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of continuing, say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Dylan?
Aye.
I say aye. All right, it brings us to our third item for open forum, which is PB 2102, a special permit and a stormwater management permit application for 0 and 37 Carlisle Road. This is the first time we're seeing this, so we have to open this one up. Is there a
Mr. Chair, I move that we waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
Second.
All right, motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Dylan?
Aye.
I say aye.
I move that we open PB 2102 for 0 and 37 Carlisle Road.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Bob?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Dylan?
Aye.
I say aye. All right, welcome the applicant. This is, again, our first time hearing about this project. I guess I'll go to the board first, or I'll ask staff first if we want to go right to the applicant. Jeff and Matt, or want to give us a summary first?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we did provide a brief staff report for your consideration, but in the interest of time, I think it would make sense to go directly to the applicant here, provide an overview.
Excellent. All right, to welcome the applicant. Is it Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Douglas DeShane representing S. Smurf LLC. With me this evening, David Guthrie, manager, as well as Matt Waterman from Land Tech. In reviewing the staff report, what I would ask the board's permission to do is we'd like to start with a quick overview of and presentation on the yield plan. As the board knows, we are seeking approval of a definitive 8-lot subdivision as well as a stormwater management permit. And we are asking the board's consideration in allowing us to develop this as an open space residential development. So what I'd like to do is do a quick overview and presentation on the yield plan. We can answer questions or anything else the board would like to discuss regarding the yield plan. And then perhaps we can then do a quick overview of the proposed OSRD layout. And then as staff has suggested, we could then discuss some things like engineering review, site walk, and next steps. So with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to start with a quick overview of the yield plan. As I said, this property is located at 0 and 37 Carlisle Road. It's made up of 2 lots, totaling a combined area of 12.4 plus or minus acres. So with that, I'd like Mr. Waterman to give you a quick overview of the yield plan.
Yep, thank you, Doug. And for the record, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants. Matt Salem, if you could slide the PDF down to the next slide, it's the yield plan slide. As I think Doug stated, I'll just give a quick brief. I think most people are familiar with this project and the location of it. It doesn't have an address. Beside it's known as 0 and 37 Carlisle Road. It's directly across the street from Wilson Farm Road. As you're heading out of the Route 110 corridor, heading south towards Carlisle, it's on your right-hand side. It abuts all residential properties, and then a large open space tract to the west and to the north and west of the Audubon property. The lot is currently wooded with a rolling terrain. There are 2 small wetland areas located in the southwest corner. They're shown on this plan as the shaded areas in the lower left-hand corner of the plan. They total about 10,000 square feet. They're about 5,000 square feet each. We have done soil testing. We show the testing on this yield plan, the rectangular dark squares. We've done testing on our own a couple times, and then we've also been out with the Board of Health on several occasions and done official testing to support both the yield plan and the open space plan. There are no floodplains, no other resource areas, no natural heritage, endangered species, habitat, and we're in a WARPOD, or a Water Resource Overlay Protection District, Zone 3. So we're not in a Zone 2. The yield plan, which is in front of you, the black and white plan, has a road. It's about 1,000 feet long. It has a 50-foot right-of-way. It does closely mimic the open space development, but it's extended further into the development. And obviously it has conventional lot sizes of 40,000 square feet and a minimum of 200 feet of frontage. In order to support the larger lot size, it did require, and the frontage, it did require the road to be extended further, impacting the wetland resource area and the lot as a whole. And we can get into the open space preservation with the next slide, but the average lot size for the yield plan is 1.3 acres. And the road length, they said, again, is about 1,000 feet. It does have, all the lots do have adequate lot size, frontage, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. I know there's not a lot getting into that with the yield plan, but be happy to answer any questions, or if Doug has anything he wants to add.
The only thing I'd like to add, Mr. Chairman, is that as Matt indicated on the yield plan, the road, because of the extended length of the road and as in comparison with the OSRD roadway, we do break into the 100-foot outer buffer zone with the roadway and just a tiny corner of one of the houses. However, that intrusion into the 100-foot buffer zone is well in keeping with the local wetland regulations, which would allow us to go as close as 50 feet. And I don't believe we're near anything near that with the yield plan. But again, we'll be talking about the wetland impacts on the open space plan a little later.
Great. I guess does anybody from the board have any questions regarding the yield plan?
Yeah, I do.
Good, Bob.
So I'm looking at lots 4 and lot 6. Were test holes performed on those lots?
Hold on one sec. I was trying to zoom in, and Matt Salem is trying to zoom in a little bit too. So, and I did do a little research ahead of time in preparing for the meeting. And all of the lots have testing on them in some form or another. There was unofficial lots that were done. There was 2 series of unofficial lots, and lot 4, hold on, I'm looking at my computer too, has lots that was suitable testing, and it was shown in the area of that. If you look in front of the house, where the rectangle, that was the intended area for a septic design. A little further down from the Matt's hand, there was testing, supporting testing done in that area. And then you said, what was the other one? Lot 6?
Yeah.
Lot 6, there was a couple holes that were unsuitable further where the house location is positioned in this diagram. But down in the southwest corner, we had a test pit that was within the right of way for Diane Lane, about 20 feet from the box that we show for the septic, 25 feet. So there was, all other lots had testing, but in particular, those 2 lots had unofficial testing. We were out there, I think, once back in 2018, and then we were back out again with more recently in 2020 to support the OSRD. So we have been out there a couple times with Board of Health and on our own.
All right, thanks, Matt.
So I guess I guess I'd be looking, Darren, to town engineer to kind of give us a reading if this satisfies the conditions for a yield plan.
Yep.
We speak on the review of this, Mr. Chair, Paul Starr, Town Engineer, and that will be one of our considerations.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Paul. All right, Bob, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, great.
Just with respect to the soil testing, I believe the planning board and the zoning bylaw has a lot of discretion. It doesn't say that testing has to be done on all the lots. This board has a lot of discretion to determine what level of information is required. for you to make a finding that it's realistic that they could secure that number of lots. After you have benefit of engineering review, if there's still some doubt, you might want to consider the possibility of a confirmatory deep hole. You've heard a lot about unofficial testing. That can sometimes be every bit as valid. It's simply without benefit of a witness from the town. So if they had been a good testing, they should be able to repeat that nearby.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. I think we'll, yeah, I'll be curious to hear engineering's comments on that one. Great. Anything else from anyone else on the board on the yield plan? Any other questions? Okay,
Nope, I assume that building commissioner has reviewed it and he's satisfied as well.
I believe that's the case.
Yep,
And
I
then,
have reviewed it.
Yeah, I saw the notes of that. And yeah, I think we're all looking forward to seeing engineering's overview once they have a chance to review it. Great. So no more questions. I don't have any additional questions on the yield plan either. Do we want to go to the OSRD for an introduction to that as well?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Matt, would you mind?
Nope, not at all. And I'll do the shortened version. I know there's a lot of information we can get into in future meetings. I'd be happy to answer any questions on traffic, stormwater, and waivers, but kind of consistent with the staff report. Doug and I discussed that we would kind of focus on the open space and the layout of the open space, kind of almost high level discussion, if you will. And then recommend that the board either, start to make their comfort level with the layout of the open space. And then if the board wishes, we can get into the details on the other things in future meetings. But the open space plan in front of you has the road in a similar layout. The road length as measured straight through the cul-de-sac is 800 feet. It's a couple hundred feet shorter than the yield plan. It's a 50-foot right-of-way. The location is consistent with the offsets to Wilson Farm Road and the site distance along Carlisle Road. The open space, there's 3 open space parcels. There's one in the northeast corner by Carlisle Road. That's a smaller lot. That's only about 0.32 acres. But then as you move into the rear of the development, or to the west of the development, there's parcels B and C. Those are the 2 larger open space parcels, totaling 2.14 acres for the larger one to the south and west where the wetlands are. And then a small parcel C, which is in between lots 5 and 6, which is 0.76 acres.
We're all in agreement. We're going to have some additional information on some subsequent slides. As you mentioned, it was at the October special town meeting. So 4 or 5 or 6 months later, what's changed, and hopefully we'll get into that. Again, what we're requesting is a special, no, let's go back. Yes, what is requested? Yes, special permitting for drive-through restaurants. Again, special permitting meaning on a case-by-case basis. We're not looking for a permitting by right, but for any applicant to have to present themselves to this planning board with their design and architectural drawings as to what and why they think a drive-through restaurant is feasible. And I recognize that again, I don't have a background or a degree in urban planning or design or architecture, but I know that it involves signage, ingress, egress, driveway perimeters, and so on. So what we would expect is that any and every applicant would be prepared to present to this planning board their detailed architectural drawings. And it would be on a case-by-case basis with all departments, safety, and so on involved. Again, all signage would be required. Jumping a little bit ahead, as an example of what we think gives you an appropriate type of architectural layout. You're all probably familiar with that Orchard Square shopping center, which remains basically without tenants. There was a bank that was originally planned for it. It's a standalone, and it probably presents kind of the textbook example of what might be involved for a drive-through restaurant. Let's go to the next slide, please. So why is it needed? I think we all recognize the state that we're currently in. It doesn't require me to kind of argue it to you. We're all living it day by day. You look at the office parks, they're basically empty. Everyone's working from home. So what this provides is basically an opportunity for anyone who may be working from home, looking for a quick break, deciding they're going to go out and get something other than a McDonald's or fine dining and go for a sandwich, soup, or whatever. Social distancing is going to be the call of the day indefinitely. I mean, we all, again, listen to the news on a nightly basis. I just scheduled tonight my first injection for COVID, but I recognize, as I'm sure all of you do, that life is not changing for us for quite a while. So social distancing is going to be the call of the day, and it's going to force us to basically change our behavioral habits with all kinds of dining. Customers, if you think about that, you know, we could give you all kinds of scenarios that mother or father with young children, putting them in car seats in the back that do not want to take them out and bring them into a restaurant, the elderly, the disabled, all of them challenged. And people also at times just think about, if you're working from home, saying, I'd like to be able to get out. I'm on my way to pick up children, drop them off at school, pick them up off at school, and be able to have a quick drive-through. So what are some of the trends? Social distancing is the way of the future. It's the way it is. We all know it. Just listen on the nightly news. All of the Westford shopping centers basically are suffering right now. This brings us an opportunity to be able to restore some of these empty spaces and monetize them for the town of Westford, bringing in some revenue. If the customers or the people that live here in Westford can't do it here, they'll go elsewhere, but obviously we would rather all buy, shop, and dine locally. And there's been probably a lot of old kind of social stigmas about drive-through restaurants, that perhaps they're not sanitary or whatever. There's no evidence to that. In fact, if you think about it, if you were to go to a drive-through restaurant, you would take the food and you would probably then go home and eat it. So let's go to the next slide in terms of why now, what's new? Well, yes, it was on October at the special town meeting. And I'm sure all of us, the last one of us, to our very last number, had hopes of some type of getting back to some normalcy of 2019 or before. But I think we all recognize that that's not coming for a while, if ever. So the new normal is just not going to be at 2019. We're going to have to learn to live with some social distancing, some different dining options, and that's the way life is going to be for us. Drive-through restaurants provide us with an option. It's something different than just going there and having contactless pickup. It's a different set. It's above, let's say, what you might think of a Starbucks or a McDonald's, and it's something different than just driving up to a fine dining place and say, bring the food out to my car. So we request this, if we go to the next slide. This is just, I think you've gotten this as a separate copy from the Westford Business Association. I've cut and pasted it. It represents their executive board's consensus approval. As I mentioned to you, the Westford EDC with Town Manager Ross, Select Board Member Clay, we're all basically in support of this. And so I guess as the final punchline, last slide, we respectfully request that you again revisit this topic and put an article on the town meeting warrant for the town residents to review and vote on in June. So
All right.
I don't know if Tom Barry or Ron Caterino have anything else to say. Obviously, this brief does not have the technical details as the previous brief. It's more of, I guess, an emotional and conceptual plea.
No, I think a lot of that, it's similar to what, the discussion we had a few months ago, last fall, but, there's certainly a lot of detail we can get into, which I think we went through before too. So thank you for that presentation. I think it looks like a nice presentation to give at town meeting. So I'll actually go to, thank you for that. I think it's well put together.
Chairman Brewer, I don't know if Ron Caterino or Tom Barry have anything they want to add.
Yeah, Bruce, this is Tom Barry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, if I could just add, I'm hearing more and more that this COVID type of flu could come back every year. I think the experts are now thinking that year after year, just like the old flu, this could come back. We could be getting booster shots every year. So I think just to reemphasize the fact that we'll never get back to the 2019 normal. I think, as Bruce stated, the masks and social distancing will become very commonplace for many years to come.
Right.
So I think making drive-throughs work for the residents of Westford will be significantly more important in the years to come.
All right, thank you. That's helpful. I think you make a good case. I think I'll go to the board now. I think my personal thought on this, and I'm going to go to the board here for this, but my own personal thought would be, we just sponsored this, 6 months ago, and it failed. My thought is perhaps if it comes from the Economic Development Committee or the Business Association that make the presentation that can say, listen, our businesses here are dependent upon this, I think it would be a stronger voice. So that's my own thought on it, but I'll go to the board for their thoughts. So Bob, I'll start with you again.
I have a few thoughts on this. So thank you, Bruce, for the excellent presentation, and thank you to my old friend Tom for helping us as well. So I kind of shared Darren's initial feelings. I see several options here. Coming out of the chute, I think first and foremost, this could be put onto town meeting as a citizen's petition. That could be done through the collection of signatures through the EDC and the Business Association. I am willing to entertain and certainly the first level of support for the board is simply to endorse it. For the board to sponsor it, and for me to, and I should remind Bruce and Tom, I was the member who stood up in front of the masses and spoke to this and kind of, got shot down by a number of, I thought, unfair questions that we had corrected during the hearings. However, I would entertain the first approach to this being that we as a group go to the selectmen next week. I really would be willing, I'd be more willing to sponsor this as opposed to just endorse it as the planning board members if we had the wholehearted support of the select board. I appreciate hearing that Tom Clay now supports this, but I really would like to get a more of an endorsement from the select board. I'd like to understand what their parameters for support would be. I'm not sure if you're familiar, Bruce and Tom and Lauren, what happened last fall was we did, towards the end of the process, right before town meeting, make some changes to the proposal. We had done some work to very specifically identify the districts within Westford, especially along 110, where we would permit these special permits to be requested. I would suggest that we start with that as the starting point of discussions this time around. I think we have all the materials from last fall and last summer that we can use in support of this, but I would really want the select board to provide us what they did not find acceptable last year and would ask us to change to make this palatable so that we could go in as 4 bodies as opposed to 3.5 and propose this to town meeting. I will take one exception, Bruce. I was a voice who last year said this is not going to end anytime soon. I work for a company who has been doing assessments of COVID and the impact on society. And I share your current opinion now that we are not going to change anytime soon. And the new normal is going to be just that. It's a new normal. Any hope of getting back to 2019 as an approach is I think several years away. And so I fully support what you're trying to do here. And I suggest we work together in how we approach that. That's all I have.
I thank you, Bob.
All right, thanks, Bob. All right, Kate?
No, I was in support of it before, both times that we've put it forward, and because I've had residents tell me some of the things that you presented, Bruce, like mothers with little kids in the car and they don't want to leave them in the car while they go into the store to get the food and such. But I agree, we were blindsided in October, and if the planning board were to sponsor it, we would need to make sure that we're not blindsided again. I don't have a preference for whether it's through the planning board or another town committee or a citizen petition. It could be actually sponsored by the Economic Development Committee, and we could work with them. So I'm happy with saying, yeah, I'm okay with them trying again. My understanding is if the planning board decides to sponsor it, at least according to old state laws, we could do that even though it's less than 2 years, because we did give a favorable recommendation the last time. So it is feasible unless things have changed for us to be the sponsor.
All right.
I'm happy letting somebody else do the legwork.
Again, I'm leaning towards, supporting it or, supporting it. But okay, I'll go to the rest. So Mike,
Yeah, I agree. I would certainly support this. I don't know that I would want to sponsor it. If it came down to it and the flavor of the board was to, I'd certainly be behind it. But I think, at least at this point, I'm certainly in favor of it, but maybe a citizen's position might be the better way to go.
Okay. Dylan?
I think everybody else's comments has been a pretty good summary of my thoughts. I supported it originally. I still think it's a good idea, and it's something that should be affirmatively voted at town meeting, because I think it's good for the town. I think it's good for businesses, and I think it's good for the residents. Originally, Darren, when I first saw this coming before us, I kind of thought, well, either the select board should sponsor it or it should be a citizen's petition. But, as I've thought about it today and in listening to the discussion, I feel like this board was right to put it forward the first time. And so, if the will of the board is that we want to put it forward again, I think, the language is largely drafted. I think the discussions we would have to have during our meetings would be fairly concise, because I think we already have consensus among the board members. It would really just be whether or not members of the public wanted to address us with their thoughts. So I'm open either way. Much like Mike just said, I could either be, get on board and, lend my voice in support of it at town meeting, or if we want to sponsor it, I'm open to that as well.
All right, great. Thank you. Yeah, so Jeff, I guess, well, I'll go to you here too. I mean, I honestly think that, I back it as well. I'm for it. I think it would be a stronger message to come from, the EDC or the WBA, because, they're the affected parties here, more so typically than the planning board. In either way, support whatever we can do. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the the most powerful statement we can make. I mean, is it, if we sponsor it, like Dylan said, we've got a lot of the stuff already done, but I think it's, if people hear the same message from us, I don't think there's going to be much of a change. I think my own personal opinion, again, is to support it and have another voice that brings it out to the meeting. So I don't know if you want to have someone wants to make a motion or continue the discussion on it, but
I guess, looking ahead at the schedule, the select board has a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday, the 9th. What is the sense from the EDC and the Business Association? I mean, would they be willing to we can go forward to that board and ask to have a discussion with them? Now that you have the support of Tom, and I suspect there's at least one other member that would support it at this time. We have a week, we have 8 days here to talk amongst ourselves and go and raise this to them to see if we could get their support. And I think that would greatly increase our level of willingness of how we go forward on the 15th, coming up in 2 weeks.
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I think, I mean, it would be, I guess it's up to the EDC, the WBA to make this presentation to the selectmen and see what the response is. And Jeff,
We're certainly prepared to do that. I guess, as protocol, maybe I have to ask Jeff, do I send in a request to Andrea to be placed on the agenda? I mean, how would this work? Andrea Prana-Sweet, by the way, is also now in favor of this drive-through. I don't know about the other members, but I believe she is.
So with your permission, I can send an email to the town manager letting them know of your request, or if you want to send me a very simple request, you'd like to request a discussion item at their next available meeting to discuss this, we can work through that for you.
I can do that, Jeff. I can send you a request, so that that's probably a more appropriate protocol.
so what's our call to action here, Jeff? Do you want something from us tonight, like a vote maybe from the board saying, provided that the selectmen support this, you know, we can co-sponsor it with them or something like that? Or do we want to wait till the 15th to actually make a vote on it?
So this agenda item was an innocent ask for discussion to see if the planning board wanted to consider sponsoring any amendments for the June town meeting, just because of the upcoming timeline. And we only could afford to dedicate staff resources towards those that you folks would be willing to sponsor. We just wanted to ask the question, high level, what are the topics that we can bring forward for your consideration? It sounds like there may be some willingness to support it and potentially under some conditions to maybe sponsor it, but it sounds like some folks want to get some additional information, perhaps from at least the select board. So I suggest we keep a placeholder item for the March 15th meeting and see if these good folks are willing to, if they can and are willing to present to the select board, get some additional information for your consideration at the next meeting. And Kate's had her hand up for a while.
Kate?
I was just curious if the Economic Development Committee, as a town committee, if they discussed at all whether or not they would be willing to sponsor a petition, an article.
I'm not sure under the bylaws if that's a committee that's eligible to just put it on without a citizen's petition. I know the
So they-
select board, the town board, Conscom can.
Well, they could just present it as a citizen's petition, right? They don't have to say officially EDC. They could just be all the members of the EDC as citizens.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
then they have to have the signatures, which I think, what is it, 50 or 100? They have to have some
Oh, yeah,
signatures.
I get
But anyways, I'm willing to Bruce and Tom to reach out during this week and talk to you about how to proceed next Tuesday with this.
I would appreciate that, because my next question was going to be, Bob, and you've kind of, you're the good straight man here, and I was going to ask Jeff. So what exactly would I be requesting at the select board meeting? Requesting that they put an article on the warrant requesting that they show a show of hands, their support. So Jeff, the question I would have is, here I know I was asking the planning board to sponsor an article, and I understand exactly what you're saying, that we're looking to get a resounding sense of support from the select board. But what specifically would I be requesting at the select board meeting from them?
So I think we can talk about that offline tomorrow.
Okay.
Get an email in without taking up all these folks' time.
Okay.
But we
And
understand where you want to go.
And I'm willing to work with you on that, Bruce and Tom as well.
I appreciate that, Bob. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I'm very concerned that if it turns into just a, not just a, but if it turns into a citizens article, I think that could go down in defeat pretty quick. But I think I agree that I'm not sure that the Economic Development Committee, as a committee, can sponsor it. So
I agree.
yeah, we were obviously hoping that
All right,
the planning board would sponsor it, certainly with strong support from the entire Economic Development Committee.
Right, and so I share all those concerns, and I'll work with you offline, Tom and Bruce. And I think
Okay.
one of the things you'd want to ask the select board is not only would they support it, but to provide you the parameters within which they would support it. Now, they may provide, now because of the situation having changed since the fall, they may be willing to endorse what was the proposal in the fall. If not, then we're asking, what are the parameters by which they trim that proposal to make it palatable so that we could get their 100% support? But I'll work with you offline the next few days. So I'll give
Okay.
you a call, Tom. I have your number here.
Yeah, you do.
My number is not correct as published, so I'll have to give you a call.
Okay.
And you have my email, I
also have your phone number from the directory.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, we can
Thank
get Ron and Bruce and myself on a call with you, Bob.
Yeah, we can do
That
that.
would work well.
Yeah.
Darren, you and the committee, I
Yes,
thank you all for your time and your support and your understanding. We're looking forward to moving ahead with this. Thank
Yeah,
you very
thanks, Bruce. Thank you for your presentation.
So are we
Thank you.
back to the planning board on the 15th? Is that what you're
We're
saying?
gonna plan to go, I'd like to schedule the 9th and then come back to the planning board on the 15th.
Okay, sounds good.
Great.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, folks.
Mr. Chairman, I believe there's someone in the audience with their hand up. Mr. Gordon? I don't know, Matt, if you want to.
All right, it's not a public hearing, but if it's a brief comments, yeah, sure.
I don't, hold on one moment.
We might have just taken it down.
Mr. Gordon, if you unmute yourself. I don't know why he doesn't have a microphone. Doesn't look like he has a microphone. Oh,
There he is.
how's that sound? Much better.
Just for your information, if I can just add in here, Mr. Gordon is the owner of Orchard Square. And we had him at our economic development meeting I think it was last week, Bruce.
Yes.
And he's got a strong, obviously, argument support for his situation as well as the rest of us.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously he'll be in favor of it, so,
Yeah, I just wanted to make two quick comments. I was going to speak, and I know we've had a long discussion, so I just wanted to speak very briefly at this point. Appreciate your entertaining the potential here, but I do just want to say, we talk about the economic issue that faces us with a building built, with a drive-through availability, and finding out that many of the banks have changed kind of their model for banking now. It's going online, and they're getting away from door to door and people and greeting, et cetera. And we've had many people from out of town or out of the area or some national chains who have expressed interest in that building and found out that when they couldn't have a potential for an open drive-through for food services, et cetera, obviously the building remains unleased. And obviously to further that point is you have a connection with a food anchor is huge to attract additional tenants when you have a plaza like ours. So I do have, you're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman. I have an iron in the fire here that I support it, and I'd like to see our building be fully rented and an asset to the community. But I would just like to say that, from some of the discussions I've had off the cuff since I've talked to the economic board with some of your residents and just kind of questioning, why this thing hasn't passed in the past. And one of the reasons I think you did have a majority at the last meeting, you just didn't have the majority to win. So that's the first time that this has been presented where you actually had more than a 50% interest in the outcome for the drive-through. So I think that's a really good step in the right direction to, hopefully energize the board to say, hey, let's take another shot at this. And I think the key is a lot of people have talked about a citizen's petition versus a board endorsement. A board endorsement has a lot of teeth. And I think a board endorsement really takes it to the next level with the residents. And then the only other point I'd like to make is, during COVID, when you had, I guess there was only a few hundred votes or a few hundred voters that attended town meeting under the conditions that they did attend town meeting, which was quite remarkable when everybody was concerned about viral spread and social distancing. I think it was probably, people that were set in their ways or had a definite opinion on this matter probably were the most people that showed up for the meeting. So I think really you've done all the homework and you've done all the legwork over these many years. I think now is the chance for it to get over the top, so to speak. And you hate to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, knowing that you're probably just a few votes away from really putting this thing over the top.
All right, thank you. That's helpful. Yeah, I think we could endorse it whether we supported it or not. I think we'd all be in favor of certainly endorsing this anyway. So, but yeah, thanks. So Bob's offered to kind of coordinate with you guys and get in front of the selectmen, and we'll see where it goes from there. That's
Just
great. Thank you.
Mr. Gordon, understand, we can endorse, as Darren said. What we might not be willing to do is sponsor it and actually be the body that puts it on the warrant. So.
Yeah, we're all clearly in favor of it.
I think you've got the board's endorsement already. It's a question of who's going to sponsor it.
Right. Excellent. All right.
Thank you again to the board. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on this out there, Matt?
Not that I see, Mr. Chair.
All right, cool. All right, so let's go on to our second request for sponsorship. Is a request by the Health Department for an amendment to allow residential kitchens by right. I guess this is pretty specific to residential kitchens that don't have employees and so forth. It'd be pretty limited, and I think it's a light lift and it makes a lot of sense. But I'll give it to staff. I'll let Jeff give us an overview.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, and then Mr. Price, our food inspector for the town, who served us many years. I'm sure he can add some further insight. So,
right.
As you're probably aware, currently under our zoning bylaw, if someone were to say provide baked goods, bake them out of their homes, and even sell them off premise, if they had no signage, no customer foot traffic, and if all the employees live there, they're still required to have a public hearing process with the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit for home occupation. And so right now, I think Mr. Price could tell you that there's been an increase in the number of those requests. And for such a small scale enterprise, you're talking about a 3-month process, start to finish with the zoning board, and say $1,000 or so out of pocket when you add up all the expenses. That's quite a disincentive for those folks, where we don't think there's necessarily any negative side effects to the town. So we thought it was at least asking the question. And Mr. Price, if you want to chime in here and give your insight over the last few years, we'd appreciate it.
The process has been, as Jeff said, thank you, Mr. Chair, for letting me speak. The process has been lengthy and expensive for many of these people. We vet these people in the health department thoroughly. think in your packet, did you get a checklist that we give to the applicants for residential kitchens?
Yes, we did.
Yep, and typically the first, I typically get the call at first, and the first thing I do is contact the building commissioner to see if it's okay with him. He's been going through the process of setting up the, telling them they need a public hearing and what they need to do. In addition to, where this is no more impactful than a UPS truck dropping off occasional orders. We vet these people thoroughly. This is only for the kitchen in their primary residence and not an accessory dwelling. That is not allowed under the food code. And I think this makes a lot of sense. And just as I was listening to the drive-through in your recent agenda item, which I am solidly for, this makes good sense economically for people in the town. And in addition, once they get through all the public hearing stuff, they have to go to the registry of deeds to register it. And it used to be $75. I think it went up to about $125. So it's easy. This could be easy, and I think people would take advantage of it. So people are looking to make a few extra dollars, especially people who have been furloughed or lost their job with COVID.
Thank you. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. I'll go to the board. Anybody from the board have any comments or questions on this one? Mike?
Well, I'll just say that I'm all for it. Would be the last person to tell somebody what they can and can't do in their own kitchen. Board of Health's going to be sure the food is safe when it comes out. That's all I need to know. So,
yeah. Good.
Can I make one more comment, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, of course.
The food that they limited to make is food that is not held to a certain temperature. So the only thing that they can produce is shelf-stable foods such as cookies, cakes. They can do jams and jellies, biscuits, bread. They couldn't do something like cream pies or anything that needs to be held under refrigeration. Also, they could decide to do internet sales. That means they would have to get a wholesale license through the state, which is just as seamless impact on the neighborhood as it would be if they did not get a wholesale license through the state.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Kate, Bob, Dylan, you guys have any?
No, sounds good, and I assume the ZBA likes the idea too. One less thing that they have to have on their agenda.
Yeah, you're
So
probably right.
I did discuss it briefly with the chairman, but unfortunately their last two meetings were canceled. We were planning on having a discussion item. So we have a discussion item scheduled for their upcoming meeting. So the chair himself was supportive, but we've got to bring it to the board. It just makes sense. It falls under their current jurisdiction.
And they've probably never denied one, right? Or not recently? Has to
Not
be
that I
pretty
know.
bad.
Placed conditions, severe conditions. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Dylan, Bob, you guys are on board with it?
I'm on board.
Mike.
Arnie, I had one question and Arnie just gave me the example. I was having a hard time interpreting non-time temperature safety. And now I understand what it means. I was thinking it had something to do with how long you cooked it, but now
No.
I understand. It's the shelf stable. So,
Right.
I'm
Mike,
all
Mike
on board for
Mike
this. I think-
summarized my opinion. Yeah.
Sounds like, Jeff, there's
I lost
support for
Bob.
the sponsor of this one.
You
Kate,
lost
do you
me?
want-
Me.
So it sounds like the board is amenable, so we can work with council to suggest some draft language for your consideration.
Great, thank you.
thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Arnie. And then
Thank
the
you.
third,
Thank you.
we have another request, 3 out of 4. This one is from the building commissioner, looking for an amendment to address ground-mounted solar energy systems in residential districts. So I think we've got a big kind of commercial guidelines, but we don't have anything specific to people that are putting solar panels in their yard, I guess. So this would be a way to address that. I'll go to Jeff.
Actually, we should go to the building commissioner. It's his idea.
All right, perfect.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you, and the board. My concern at this point here is we've been getting phone calls for ground mount solar panels. And we've issued a permit where there is no screening at all between the two properties. So looking at the large scale, there is at least something in place, some criteria in place to protect the site of the solar panels, the glare of it, and just for the neighbors that don't want to really be looking at the side of a solar panel. This is I'm only asking just not to stop any of the solar panels, but only to create some kind of buffer between the neighbors.
Great. I think it makes sense. I'll go board. Any comments on this one? Questions? Bob?
Did I just understand there would be some setback requirements for where these could be placed?
Yes, there is structure, so they would have to meet the setback requirements.
Okay, that was my one concern. And then the other part of this would be any kind of safety aspects in terms of the voltage and what has to be done to protect it. Obviously, if it's on the ground, it's much more accessible than if it's on a roof.
Yeah, I'm not completely clear on the voltage that's allowed for the ground, but I have seen some ground mount ones, and I probably would have to ask that question. Sorry for that. I don't have an answer for you on that.
Yeah, because I know that's a concern with the commercial ones where there is definitely very high voltage present in some of those farms. So,
yeah.
But, okay, that's all I have.
Great. Mike?
No, it looks like a good idea to me. I'm on board.
All right, cool. Dylan?
Fully on board.
Great. Kate?
I lost audio for the whole thing, but I'm on board if the building inspector thinks it's a worthwhile change.
All right, I agree. Jeff, I guess you got the sense of the board there for this one. I think we're all in favor of supporting this.
Yeah, our building commissioner can work with us and town council to suggest some language for your consideration.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Fontaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, board.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Henry.
All right.
Matt
Now
Salem.
I lost video, so I don't know if you can see me anymore.
We can hear you. We just see a still picture of you.
Yeah, I just lost it. Sorry.
Okay.
But I am here.
All right, good.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we request your consideration of sponsoring a zoning bylaw amendment regarding clarifying some of the conditions of use, the conditions of approval within sections 3.2 accessory uses and 3.5 accessory structures. In review, actually, with Henry of the subsections of the bylaw regarding outside structures and inside structures, we noticed an inconsistency or just some strange language, and in further discussions with Jeff, it might be beneficial to move a couple of the subsections from accessory structures into accessory uses to clarify and allow staff and applicants, residents, to better interpret the bylaw, and so we can implement it. And we request your consideration.
All right. Thanks, Matt. That makes sense to me. If we're moving towards clarifying things and making it easier for applicants and staff to interpret, it makes a lot of sense. I'll go to the board. Bob?
I'm good. Thank you.
Perfect. Mike?
I'm good. Thank you.
Great. Dylan?
Makes sense to me. I'm on board.
All right. Kate?
Yeah, anything to improve the interpretation is appreciated.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have one more, Jeff, right? The OSRD.
So the last one, Mr. Chair, is the OSRD. If the board may recall, we did have a discussion several months ago about clarifying what this current board feels the intent of the OSRD section of the bylaw should be. We've had some back and forth with town council. At your request, we had conversations with council to see about a clarification attempt to take the bite out of the worst conflicts in this bylaw. And so upon review, town council informed me that it was beyond a simple red line situation, and council would like the opportunity to speak with the board. Council has some ideas, but wants to suggest them to you, answer any questions you have, get some direction, and then can propose some language for your consideration. It's not just a simple strike through here or there and adding a few words here and there. So it still may be doable for this town meeting, but we would have to move very quickly.
All right, so basically, yeah, I think whether we can make this town meeting or not, I think it makes sense to move forward with this as we've had a lot of discussions about it. So I'm in favor of it, certainly. I'll go to the board again. I'll start with Kate this time. Keep everybody on their toes.
Same comment, anything to improve the readability of our interpretation of our bylaws is appreciated.
All right, cool. Dylan?
I mean, yeah, I would agree. It should be fixed. I also agree with your comments, Darren. I don't know that the urgency is there to, like, if it's going to be difficult to shoehorn this in for this town meeting, I think now that this board has an understanding of how we should be interpreting it, I think we can function with the clarity that we got from town council. This would just be sort of ratifying and fixing, what needs to be fixed. So if we can't get it done for this town meeting, I think we could get it done for the next one. It would still be, worth doing. So yeah, I support it. I just, if it's going to be problematic to get it in for this one, I think it could be something that we work on over time and get into the, the next town meeting after this one. So.
Right. Cool. Mike?
I agree with Dylan, but I also of the thought that, we've got the ball rolling. Let's keep it rolling. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Bob?
Yeah, I share Dylan's thought. I think some of the other bylaws we just discussed, I'd rather push them along at this time because of what they do for the residents in terms of immediate benefit. But if we can fit this along, let's do it. But if we have to delay it another 6 months or 5 months, whatever, to the fall town meeting, that's fine.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Any other requests, Jeff, that have come in 11th hour that we're not aware of or anything? I think we're all set there, right?
I think so, Mr. Chairman.
All right, cool. So that brings us to our first general business item, item A, PB 1834. It's a request that the board grant a 1-year extension of time for the signed special permit at the Helena Crocker residence at 60 Littleton Road. And from my understanding, it'd be a 1-year extension of just the signed special permit, but would also bring the signed special permit in line with the expiration of the other permits that have been issued for the site too. So I'll go to Jeff for anything to add on that one.
No, that's a very concise summary, and Attorney Robbins is available as well to answer any questions the board might have.
Right. All right, so I'll go to the board. I think it's pretty straightforward. Now I'll go to Kate.
I think it's straightforward. So I had no problems with extending that to the same time as the other two permits or approvals. And good luck with getting the funding. I hope it goes well.
Cool. Dylan?
I had absolutely no concern extending this.
Right, good. Mike?
Agreed.
Perfect. Bob?
Agreed with everything said, and good luck getting the funding.
Yep, I agree as well. Jeff, do you need a vote on this one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
So if you want, I'll move that we, on PB 1834, the site permit and special permit and stormwater for the Helena Crocker residence, 60 Littleton Road, that we grant a 1-year extension of time for the signed special permit to what's the date?
March 4th, 2022.
Thank you, to that date.
All right.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, Kate?
Aye.
Dylan?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
All right, I say aye. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And then the second item now on general business, item B, is 2104. An A&R request at 2 Cricket Lane and 4 Milo Road, Milot Road. It's a request for endorsement of an A&R plan to facilitate a lot line adjustment. It looks like the applicant has taken steps to take care of that. So I'll go to Jeff. I'll go to the applicant, I guess, on this one.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. That you've stated is actually correct. We had an issue with the rear yard setback, the 30-foot rear yard setback on a deck. And to alleviate the issue, what we've done is got a small portion from the abutter. It has no effect to their lot whatsoever, and that remediates the setback issue to the rear. So we're asking just for a slight lot line adjustment.
Great. All right. Any questions or comments from the board? Concerns? Kate?
None.
Dylan?
Sorry, had to unmute. None.
All right, Mike?
Done.
All right, Bob?
None. My only question is to town staff. Do we need to come in to sign this approval?
So as I was about to suggest, you could authorize me to sign on behalf of the board. The board did take steps to allow for endorsement of the A&Rs by certain staff members. As long as you include that in your vote, what we do is I sign and I give the book and page reference that's recorded at the Registry of Deeds that allows for that. But you have to vote for that each time. Otherwise, I can't do that.
All right. Whoever's making the motion, would you include that language, please?
Kate.
I move that we endorse the approval not required plan for 2 PB 2104, 2 Cricket Lane and 4 Milo Road to facilitate a lot line adjustment, and that we do not make any determination with respect to compliance to zoning. Is that the wording, Jeff? Did I say
Yep,
it
no
correctly?
determination as to zoning is
Yeah,
made
we
or
make
applied.
no-
That's on the plan already.
If we make no determination with respect to zoning compliance, and that we also authorize staff to sign for the planning board for a vote we took about a year ago.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Is that sufficient, Jeff?
Yes.
All right. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, Kate?
Aye.
Dylan?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
I say aye. All right.
Thank you very much, members of the board. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, that brings us to correspondence reports and updates. We've got a couple of sets of draft minutes to review. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the February 1st, 2021 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, and then is there any discussion? I'll go down the line. Kate?
Nope.
Dylan?
Looks good to me.
Mike?
All good.
Bob?
Yes, I had one comment on line 104. I think that what I was asking for there was that the homeowners association documents that the homeowners are required to maintain the integrity. And I wanted to get that words "are required" in there. That's everything.
All right, that makes sense.
They're required to maintain the Cape Cod berm.
Yes.
And it's the association, just to be clear.
The homeowners association that the homeowners association is required to maintain the integrity of the Cape Cod berm.
Okay, that's an easy fix.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Bob,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Dylan,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
I say aye. All right. And then second, is there a motion to approve the draft minutes from the February 16th, 2021 meeting?
So
Move.
moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll go down the line. Bob,
One question, line 44, what is the B at the start of the line? Was that because we took it out of order? What's the B?
I think you might
Yes,
have
I think
taken
that's-
that out of order.
yeah,
I think that's right.
Okay, so that was general business item B. Okay, I'm
Right.
fine. Okay. Nope, no other questions.
all right, Mike,
Looks good to me.
Dylan,
Same.
Kate?
No comments.
All right, I had no
You
comments.
got your transcriber is getting too good.
Yeah, that's very good.
Dana does excellent, timely work. So we're very, very fortunate to have her. She does great work.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Bob,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Dylan,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
I say aye. All right, any other correspondence, reports, or updates from staff or the board?
No,
I
sir.
just have one. I got a letter in the mail today from town clerk's office that appointment to the pedestrian safety committee expires the end of June, and they asked if I wanted to re-up. I know this form is really for citizens at large, but they want a response by March 19th. So I was going to say, yeah, I'm okay with re-upping. I know that we will do a formal vote on that when we do our board reorg, but just to let you know, I'm going to send it in.
Perfect. Great, thank you. Anything else? All right, good work. Is there a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion is second. All those in favor, say aye. Bob,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Dylan,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
I say aye. All right,
Thank you very much.
thanks, everyone.
Good night,
Yeah, any
everybody.
idea when we might be back in person?
No.
Very good.
Concise.